Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're the show that really tries to cut through the noise for you. And today we are diving deep into something absolutely critical for anyone spending money on ads. The title says it all. Stop feeding your losses, own your ROAS like a CFO. Now, return on ad spend, ROAS. We all talk about it, right? It's like the metric. But here's a, well, slightly terrifying thought. What if you're getting it wrong? Like significantly wrong? What if you're underestimating your true customer acquisition costs by, say, as much as 40%?
Yeah, that's not just a rounding error. That's a huge problem.
It's a massive blind spot. It could be totally undermining your profitability, your growth, everything. So today, we're giving you the shortcut, a framework, really, to actually own your ad profitability. We're going to unpack how to build a ROAS analysis that accounts for, well, everything a CFO would care about.
Things like margins, lifetime value, proper attribution.
Exactly. And even those sneaky overhead costs that often get ignored. Our mission, to turn your view of ad spend from just a number into a real strategic tool.
Couldn't agree more. This isn't about vanity metrics, It's about making smarter, genuinely informed decisions. Decisions that hit the bottom line, moving beyond the surface stuff to real insight.
Okay, let's dive in then. Part 1. Beyond the basic ROAS, why that simple formula just isn't enough. So most people start here. Revenue generated divided by ad spend. Pretty standard example. You make $4,000, you spend $1,000 on ads. That's a 4-to-1 ROAS. Simple.
Seems simple, yeah. But what's fascinating, or maybe worrying, is how deceptive that simplicity is,
Yeah.
that basic calculation. It's really just the absolute beginning. To really get it, you need a much more, let's say, sophisticated tracking system.
Sophisticated how? What does that actually involve?
Well, it means capturing not just the direct, immediate revenue, but also figuring out indirect revenue attribution, understanding how different channels work together, accounting for conversions that happen, days or weeks later.
Right, the delayed impact.
Exactly. And even factoring in the value of returning customers. If you only look at that first sale ROAS, you're missing, well, most of the story.
Okay, I get the why, but the how do we actually build this? Sounds complicated.
It starts with getting your tracking tech right. Think Google Analytics for whatever platform you use, making sure your conversion pixels are actually firing correctly everywhere they should be.
On all relevant pages, yeah.
Absolutely. Setting up cross-domain tracking if needed, enabling enhanced e-commerce tracking for all the purchase details, product IDs, amounts, the works, and crucially, setting up custom events.
What kind of custom events?
Things like add to cart, initiate checkout, maybe even time on key page. These are micro conversions, right? They show intent long before the final purchase. They're valuable signals.
Got it. So tracking tech is set up. What data points are non-negotiable? What do we absolutely have to collect for this CFO level view?
Okay, beyond the tech setup, it's about being meticulous. You need every single purchase transaction, obviously, but also things like lead form submissions, phone call conversions.
If those are relevant to the business, yeah.
Right. Even in-store visits, if you can link them back to digital ads. And don't discount email signups and engagement. Those are often massive indicators of future value. Collecting all this, like really diligently, that's the first step to thinking like a CFO about your ad spend, not just like a marketer chasing clicks.
Okay, that brings us neatly to part 2, unmasking the true costs, the profitability iceberg, as you called it. This is where that 40% underestimation really comes into play, isn't it? It's not just the ad platform spend. There are all these other costs, hidden costs, that hammer your real ROAS.
Perfect analogy of the iceberg. So let's break down the direct advertising costs first. These are things people usually track, but maybe not always fully baked into the ROAS number.
Right, what?
Well, the obvious one, platform ad spend, Google, Meta, TikTok, wherever you're spending, but also agency fees if you use one, creative production videos, images, banners.
That can add up quickly.
It really can. Landing page development, content creation for the campaigns, and all those software tools and subscriptions you use for managing and analyzing everything. These are direct, but need to be fully accounted for in the spend part of ROAS.
Right, that's the visible tip of the iceberg. Now, let's talk about the chunk below the water, the hidden cost factors. The ones that can inflate your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, by that, scary 40%. What are we talking about here?
This is where the surprises lurk. Things like internal team salaries. Your marketing team's time isn't free. A portion of their cost belongs here.
Makes sense. What else?
A fair allocation of general overheads, rent, utilities, stuff that supports marketing. The cost of your tech infrastructure, like your CRM or analytics platforms.
Okay.
customer service costs, specifically for supporting new customers brought in by ads. And those pesky payment processing fees on every single transaction, they chip away at the revenue side.
Wow, okay, if you ignore all that.
If you ignore that, you're not calculating your true CAC. Simple as that.
So you could have a ROAS that looks good on paper, maybe 3.1 or 4.1, but you're actually losing money bringing that customer in the door.
Absolutely. Happens all the time. Connecting this to the bigger picture, the CFO perspective, these hidden costs are vital.
Right.
They show the true cost to acquire and therefore the actual profitability. Without them, it's an incomplete picture, potentially a very misleading one. That's why having some kind of comprehensive cost calculation template is so valuable, pulls everything together, no nasty surprises later.
Right, okay. Costs sorted direct and hidden. Now, part 3, the customer journey attribution and lifetime value. How do we properly assign the revenue back to these costs? This leads us to attribution models and attribution windows. Why are those windows so key?
Attribution windows are critical because they define the time frame where an ad touch point gets credit for a conversion, and it varies hugely by business.
Give us some examples.
Sure. For, say, B2C e-commerce, maybe a 7-day window for impulse buys like fashion, maybe 30 days for considered purchases, electronics perhaps, maybe even 90 days for high-ticket stuff like furniture or luxury goods.
Because the buying cycle is different.
Exactly. But then flip to B2B services. Sales cycles are way longer. You might need a 30-day minimum window, maybe 90 days is standard, and for complex enterprise deals. Could easily be 180 days. Using too short a window here means you miss the actual impact of campaigns that influenced a deal months down the line.
And it's rarely just one click anymore, is it? People see multiple ads, interact across channels. So multi-touch attribution comes in. How does that generally work?
Yeah, the journey's messy. Multi-touch tries to slice the credit fairly. You might track the first touch the ad that first introduced someone, maybe give that, 20, 30% of the credit.
Because it started the journey.
Right. Then the last touch, the ad they clicked right before converting. That often gets a bigger chunk, maybe 30, 40% because it closed the deal.
In the middle.
All the interactions in between other ads, emails, content views, they get the remaining value distributed amongst them. This gives a much more holistic view than just saying last click gets all the credit.
Yeah.
You avoid cutting off campaigns that play a vital role early on.
Okay, this makes sense for tracking the initial sale, but you mentioned long-term impact, repeat purchases. That brings us to lifetime value, or LTV. How does that fit into the ROAS picture?
LTV, your best friend for long-term thinking. The basic calculation is pretty straightforward. Average order value times purchase frequency times customer lifespan.
Simple enough.
But to really think like a CFO, you need to integrate LTV into your ROAS. This gives you an LTV-adjusted ROAS.
That sounds like it could completely change the perception of a campaign's success. Can you walk us through an example? Make it tangible.
Let's do it. Imagine you spend $50 on ads to get a customer. Their first purchase is $100. Okay, traditional ROAS is $100. $50 is 2.1 cents. Looks borderline, maybe.
Yeah, not amazing depending on margins.
Right. But now, let's say their predicted LTV is actually $300. And historically, 40% of your new customers become repeat buyers.
Okay.
Your LTV-adjusted ROAS calculation becomes $100 initial revenue plus $300 predicted LTV times 0.40 repeat rate divided by the $50 ad spend.
So that's $112 plus $120, $50, $220, $50.
Which equals 4.4.1.
Yeah.
See, that campaign that looked meh at 2.1 is suddenly looking pretty damn good at 4.4.1 when you factor in the future value.
Wow. Okay, that definitely shifts the perspective. It lets you invest more upfront knowing the long-term payoff is there.
Exactly. You're investing in the customer, not just the first transaction.
Which brings us to part 4. Defining good ROAS. After all this, what actually is good? How do we know if we're profitable?
This is where gross margin is absolutely essential. Remember the formula. Revenue minus cost of goods sold divided by revenue. Get that percentage.
Got it. Let's say my gross margin is 40%.
Okay, now you can calculate your minimum profitable ROAS threshold. It's simple. 1 divided by your gross margin percentage. So 1 divided by 0.40.
That's 2.5.
Exactly. You need a minimum ROAS of 2.5.1 just to break even on your ad spend at the gross margin level. A CFO looks at this immediately. Anything below that, you are literally losing money on every ad-driven sale before even considering overheads.
That's a hard floor then, a non-negotiable for your specific business. But what about industry benchmarks? Are they useful at all?
They can give you some context, sure, but treat them with caution. Targets vary wildly. E-commerce might aim for 3.5.1 or 4.1 plus. SaaS, with higher LTV, might need 4.1 or more. B2B services might be lower, maybe around 3.1. Consumer services may be higher again. But honestly, there is no universal good ROAS. It is so tied to your specific model, your margins, your goals. Understanding your minimum profitable ROAS, that's way more important than chasing some generic number. That's how you stop feeding losses.
Right. Focus on your own unit economics first. Okay, last section, part 5, optimizing and scaling smartly. We've got this detailed ROAS picture. How do we use it to improve things and grow without, messing it up?
It starts with relentless performance monitoring, like daily tracking. And not just overall ROAS. You need it broken down by channel, Google versus Meta versus whatever, by campaign, by ad set, by creative, even by audience segment.
Granularity is key.
Totally. This detailed view lets you spot what's really working and what's dragging things down. You can't optimize what you can't see clearly.
And to make that monitoring useful, setting up optimization triggers, what kind of alerts help?
You want automated alerts. ROAS drops below your minimum threshold. Alert, sudden spike in costs. Alert, conversion rate tanks. Alert, revenue looks weird. Alert.
An early warning system.
Precisely. It flags problems before they burn through cash. It lets you be proactive, investigate, and fix things fast.
Makes sense. Now, scaling. This is where lots of businesses stumble. The economics aren't always straightforward, right? ROAS can drop.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic trap. You're cruising along with a great ROAS, maybe 6.1 on a smaller budget. Your CAC is, say, $40.
Yeah.
Then you decide to scale hard, pump in way more money, and your ROAS might drop to 3.1. Suddenly, your CAC jumps to $70 because you're reaching broader, less relevant audiences. Maybe your conversion rate dips. Your CPCs go up because you're bidding more aggressively. Seeing ROAS drop when scaling isn't inherently bad if it's still above your profitable threshold and planned for. But you must anticipate it.
So smart scale management. How do we do that without just pouring money into less efficient areas?
Go gradual. Don't just 10x your budget overnight. Try maybe a 20% increase. Monitor ROAS like a hawk for a week. See what happens. Adjust.
Adequate the scaling.
Absolutely. Scale the winners first, the campaigns, ad sets, audiences already proving themselves, and put safeguards in place. Set hard ROAS floors you won't go below. Use budget caps. Watch ad frequency so you don't annoy people. Track audience saturation. It's about controlled, profitable expansion. And if you really want to get advanced, look at cohort analysis. Track ROAS for groups of customers acquired at different times or through different channels. It shows long-term value trends. And always factor in seasonality. Adjust your expectations based on historical trends and market conditions.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot. From that basic ROAS formula right through to a genuinely sophisticated framework, thinking like a CFO about where every ad dollar goes and what it truly returns.
It's definitely a journey beyond just looking at that top-line number.
Yeah.
It's about deep financial insight driving your ad strategy.
It really is. Understanding costs, attribution, LTV, it changes everything.
And remember, this isn't something you set up once and forget. It's constant refinement. Continuous optimization, always looking for ways to improve that real return.
So the final thought for you listening, now that you have this framework, this CFO level perspective, what's the first step you'll take? What's the first thing you'll change to stop feeding any potential losses and start truly owning your advertising return? How could this shift your next big campaign?
Yeah, don't get overwhelmed. Take action today. Start simple. Calculate the basic ROAS for your main channel, then build from there. Layer in the costs, start thinking about LTV, look at attribution. Just start the process. Continuous improvement is the goal, and it leads to much, much better results.